Verse of the day today. Hebrews verse 11, chapter 6. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. On your journey, you're going to be tested so many times. You're going to be pushed so many different ways, and just your faith will be tested so much to the point where it'll have you questioning whether or not this is truly what you want. So your will and your ability to put faith and trust into a higher being, higher than yourself, is going to be detrimental and very important and very pivotal for your life in order for you to see the results that you want to see. Because not every day will be sunshine and rainbows. Not every day will be just an easygoing day. Some days will be more tough. Some days will be more challenging. Some days we'll just have those days where it's really mentally draining and mentally exhausting to the point where you just want to give up, but your will and your faith and belief in a higher being than yourself will keep you going at the end of the day. So you just got to continue to push forward no matter what. Continue to believe that God has a purpose for you, and really just continue to have faith no matter what. You can't lose faith on this journey. You have to keep a very, very positive outlook on everything. It's easier for you to not let your emotions get too attached to the outcomes, because the moment that happens, you'll get discouraged easily. You know, if you set a goal and you don't hit your goal and your emotions are attached to that, you're going to easily get discouraged. So just keeping faith in the progress and the process and trusting the process will allow you to have a lot more peace with the outcome. With that being said, let's get to it. Excuse any and every background noise you guys will hear. You might hear airplanes, trains, and just all kind of noise in the background. So just excuse that. This is a disclaimer. Excuse all the noise you might hear now. So on Monday, we took a very easy and quick in and out scalp trade off of the 660 level. We were pretty much stuck in a zone of demand, stuck between 658 and 664 on Monday. So we just attacked that range and took calls at the downside of the demand, which was also closer to the orb low, and we caught reverses off that move. But then we were able to also catch a reversal towards the downside once we retested the orb high, which was 662, and we took rejections off 662 back down to 660, and we just traded that range. So we were able to catch a play to the upside and to the downside on Monday, which is really good, and I was really happy with my execution that day. So that was Monday, pretty easy day, and yeah. Let's move on to Tuesday. We took some trades off of SPY. We were trying to catch rejections here around the 660 level. So Monday's previous candle low, and we were able to catch a small scalp play off of there, but it failed to hold below 660 and actually broke back above 660 and reclaimed 665 on Tuesday. So we caught a very small scalp on SPY that Tuesday, and AMD was our main banger that we actually caught. So let's load the AMD chart real quick on Tuesday. So here you guys see AMD. So here you guys see the AMD chart. We formed that range between 216 and 221. So we were able to catch the move from 216 all the way back up to 219. And then we reverted back down to 216 again, failed to close down below 216, so I got back in it again, and we were able to catch this move back to 221. From there we took profits, and it rejected once again, then it reclaimed the level again, but we didn't get in that. At that point, we were moving on to our next trade. So that was Tuesday, pretty smooth price action, very clear-cut levels. Wasn't a lot of thinking into taking these positions, and that's typically how you want to go about trades. You don't want to have to overthink your entries and your trade. You want to really have a clear identification of what your risk is, what your target is, and you know what your possible outcome can be, whether it's to the upside or to the downside. That's really all you want to have. If you can't determine what it is that you're gonna make or lose, then it's probably not a trade you should be taking. So let's move on to Wednesday. All right, you guys, so here we have the SPY chart loaded for Wednesday. And as you guys see, we had a crazy day on Wednesday. We went from 670 all the way back down to 660 and closed the day right around 665. Let's talk about the trade we took. We actually caught initial trade off of the SPY level in between the orb range of 667 to 666. So we took a rejection here off of the orb high back down to 666. Took profits there because once the next candle opened, it reverted and stopped out our runners, and we broke above the orb high, going back into 670. By the time we reached 670, we took another rejection off that level, and we had a very, very tight stop loss on this position from 670.3, and we never touched that level again that day. We ended up rejecting from 670 all the way back down to 660. But we only caught it all the way up until 667. So we took full profits at 667.5, and from there it reversed some more and went all the way down to 660. So then we tried getting into another position later in the day, right around the retest of the pre-market low. However, it did wick us out of the play, so we took a little L on that position. But overall that day we were able to make money off of the big rejection from 670 to 667.5. So that was Wednesday. Let's move on to Thursday. So here we have the Thursday chart loaded. As you guys see, we had a similar move come in on Thursday from the 669 level all the way back down to 657. We caught another position here at the early day trades from this orb low range of 667 to 666. We took a rejection here. Once we saw it continuously fail to hold above 667.3, I took a put position here and I rode it back down to 666, took some profits down here into 666 to 665.4. Took full profits once it reverted back above 667, and then we waited for another entry, but we got wicked out of it due to trading 0 days. We tried to take a position here off the 668 level because we saw some rejections come in once it retested 669, and we pretty much just got wicked out of it due to the volatility of the contracts moving at such high pace. And we actually ended up missing the entirety of the move from 668 back down to 658. So we were unfortunate to miss that, but we managed our risk really well, and it allowed us to finish that day green as well. So I was not upset about that at all. But that was a Thursday trade as well. So let's move on to the last trade of the day, which was Friday. As here we have the Friday charts loaded. So as you guys see here, we pretty much were in that same range that we started out on Monday with, which was at 658 to 660 level. We were failing to break above it, so I did take some puts throughout this trading session. I got an initial early entry on this play at the failure to go above the orb high, but it ended up wicking us out after reverse and reclaimed the level. Once we closed below it, but we reclaimed it, it stopped me out, and so I took another position here off this 664 once we saw rejections come in there, and I was able to catch the move from 664 all the way back down to 658. Took full profits down here, and we ended up reversing again, and that was it for the day. So we just took a one and done trade that day. It was a pretty long session for me, at least on that particular trade, because it took about an hour for the move to come in, but it was well worth it because we made over 40% on that trade. So that's it for the recap of last week. Let's move on to next week and what we can expect to see on the SPY charts going into this week. All right, you guys, here we have the SPY chart loaded on the 4-hour time frame. So what can we expect to see going into this week? So you guys, we look to be forming a downtrend, but that does not mean that it is entirely a downtrend just yet. The reason being is because we are still holding very key levels of demand. The key levels of demand that I'm mentioning are 654 and 658. So with the key levels of demand being 654, which is that major level of demand, and 658, what you guys want to see happen this week is a failure of one of those two levels. 658 for sure would be the first confirmation of failure to continuation to the downside, and then 654 is the big confirmation of failure to continue to the downside. We look to be forming what is a downtrend based upon the wicks you guys see here. We have a major rejection at 674. Then we have a retest of 670 with a slight rejection there. Then we have a retest of 669 with the rejection below and closing below that 667 level to continue back to the downside. So what we're forming here is a continuation of lower lows, lower highs. So we have a high here, a lower high, another lower high, and what we formed on Friday was another lower high. So if we continue to form these lower highs, we want to see, now what we want to see is movement to the downside. We don't want to see it form a triangle here, because then it would be uncertain on whether or not it'll go up or go down. So we want to see continuation to the downside if we want to see downside come in. Now, if we want to see upside come in, what we want to see happen is for these levels to continue to hold, which is 654, 658, and then it wants to now break above the previous candle high levels. So the previous candle high levels that I have are 665, 667, and 670. If we can break above those three levels, we can see continuation to the upside and possibly see new all-time highs. So that would be the game plan going into this week, is to look to see whether or not we're continuing to the downside, or look to see if we're holding and reversing and going back higher. Because like I said, right now we look to be in a bearish formation, meaning we're seeing continuation to the downside because we have constant lower highs form. But if we start to see breaks of the lower highs, then that would be a trigger confirmation to indicate that we're possibly going to move higher. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a like or comment below. Make sure you guys are leaving a subscribe if you guys want to see more videos like this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure to stay safe, continue to believe, and continue to grow and prosper. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.